Hello, my name is Annette Dalloo, and you are listening to The Heart of You. In today's episode, we are exploring past lives and the Akashic Records. We have all had that experience where we meet someone and we know unequivocally that we know this person, and we can't understand why, because we may have just met that person, and we are trying to figure out, how is this person so familiar to us? I can almost guarantee that the reason why this person is so familiar is because you have lived another life with them. There are times when it is important to actually find out definitively if this is a person that you've had a previous lifetime with, because clearly if you are meeting them again, you are meeting for a reason. It could be because of either your life purpose or theirs. You could be teaching each other lessons. There could be a myriad of reasons why you are meeting again in this lifetime. The best way to find out that reason is to access the Akashic Records. Now, everybody has the innate ability to access their own past lives, or what is also known as the Book of Life or Akashic Records. I have taken clients through a very quick Akashic meditation to help people to access their own Akashic Records, and even people who haven't been able to do so in the past have been able to see at least a small glimpse of one of their previous lives. Now, you may ask, what is the purpose of looking at our past lives? Especially if one of the best things we can do in this lifetime is to live in the present moment. One of the best reasons to look at the Akashic Records is to discover your life purpose in this lifetime. You see, the Akashic Records cover not only past lives, they cover everything that is currently going on in this incarnation, and it also holds potential timelines for future incarnations. Our life purpose in this lifetime is the most important thing that we need to know. I can definitely tell you that it's not going to come as a huge surprise to you, because you already know within your heart and within your higher self what you came here to do in this lifetime. Sometimes it has to do with lessons that you have been learning over the course of many lifetimes. Sometimes it's something completely new. But whatever it is you came here to do, wouldn't you want to know so you could achieve it? A really beautiful example would be, let's say you have been dating the same person over and over again. Even if it's been 4 different people, it is essentially the same person. That would tell me that you are in a cycle that is repeating simply because you have not learned the lesson that you need to learn in this lifetime. So until you start learning the lesson, or until you start doing the inner work that is required, you will continually date the same person over and over again, even if they are in fact completely different human beings. Maybe that lesson is in unconditional love and not being in codependent relationships. Or maybe this lesson is about standing up for yourself and actually understanding what boundaries mean. It can be a lot of different lessons, and only you know within your heart which lessons those are that you're trying to learn. Oftentimes, it's hard to look within ourselves and see those things because sometimes it's just too close. That's where I come in. When I am doing an Akashic reading for a client of mine, I am able to unravel some of those stories as well as the histories of the previous lifetimes and present it in a way that is understandable, as well as giving you action steps to be able to move through these lessons more easily. Another reason you may want to look into your past lives is to figure out if you do in fact know somebody who is in your current lifetime. Many people inquire on whether or not they have been in previous lifetimes with their parents or their siblings, their best friends, or their boyfriends and girlfriends. And these are all really beautiful questions to ask because clearly, if these people are in your life now, then there is a chance that you have actually known these people in previous incarnations. Every single one of us has what's called a soul family. Now, these are not necessarily people that we are related to by blood here on Earth. Your soul family are a group of roughly 100 to 200 souls, and you have been incarnating in lifetimes for hundreds of thousands of years. When you're in a particular soul family, there are very specific lessons that all of you are trying to learn. So you will help each other throughout the course of your lifetimes to help you achieve these goals. Sometimes you will incarnate on Earth. Sometimes you will stay back and be in the energy fields as well as other dimensions and helping the rest of your soul family accomplish what they came here to accomplish. When you find members of your soul family, they can feel very familiar to you. And the reason for that is because you have had possibly hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes with them. It's almost as if you know them better than you know yourself. Now let's cover the very exciting topic of soulmates. People often mistake soulmates as somebody who is a romantic partner only. And I have seen that that is absolutely not the only case. A soulmate is simply a soul that is incarnated as a human at a particular time, and you have a soul purpose together. And that soul purpose could last a lifetime. It could last 5 minutes. It just depends on what you both came here to achieve. Your soulmate could also be somebody who is in your soul family, but they could also be somebody who isn't. It just really depends on the lesson that you are here to learn. Now, here's the next question is, can we have many soulmates? And the answer is absolutely yes. I definitely have soulmates in my life that are really good friends or that have been romantic partners in the past. No matter who these soulmates are, you can almost guarantee that they will have an incredible impact on your life. People often inquire, what determines whether or not a soulmate comes into your life? And that answer lies in the Akashic Records as well. We have something called a soul contract. This is a contract that we create prior to our incarnation on Earth. This contract is gone over by our higher selves, by our angels, and by the universe to be able to allow us to learn the lessons that we are meant to learn, as well as assess where we have been in all of our previous lives. So we can now determine what needs to be learned in order to further our soul. Think of it almost like Earth is a school, because basically that's exactly what it is. This does bring up the topic of free will versus destiny, and I will actually have an entire episode dedicated to that subject later on this season. We absolutely have free will within our day-to-day lives. However, we do have certain points in our lifetime that are fixed And if you've ever seen the movie Sliding Doors, you'll understand what I mean. There are certain points in time or certain events that are meant to happen. Could you make the free will choice to not be in that specific place at that specific time? Yes, absolutely. But if you miss that particular event, that event will happen again at some other point. So if you are meant to meet somebody, and let's say you decide not to go out for that particular night, don't worry, you're not messing up your entire future. It's simply that you will meet along the timeline at a different point. If you've ever read Louise Hay, she always said, the universe has your back. And that's exactly what that means. The world and the universe is not out to trip you up or to make you make mistakes. It's absolutely there to support you. The universe wants you to succeed. Your guides want you to succeed. Your higher self wants you to succeed. If you have ever had a culmination of signs and synchronicities that have led you to one particular place, you understand what that means. You feel fully supported in the fact that you have been led to this exact place at this exact time. Well, what if we don't achieve what is in our soul contract in this lifetime? It simply carries over to the next lifetime, or you create a new soul contract. So maybe you decide that you are going to have a new set of circumstances that will help you achieve your goal more easily. There are certain times when soul contracts were meant to expire and they did not expire. This is something that I do help clients with, is clearing old soul contracts. So if you have completed this soul contract, and especially if it is with another person, and for some reason that energy is still lingering on, we can actually go in and have both you and that other person sign the Akashic Records. And this is an energetic signing, if you will, releasing yourself from that contract. Most of the time, we are naturally clearing all of these things as we just live out our lives. It is for that reason, it is very rare that I will come across someone who I have to clear a soul contract that is from ancient lifetimes. Usually the soul contracts that we are clearing are from the last, I would say, 7 to 8 lifetimes. Another really common question is, how many lives have I lived? And the answer to that question is, it all depends on who you are. Most of the time, I don't get an actual number. When I ask my Akashic guides, they tell me either many or they will show me that this person maybe has been around since the beginning of the universe, but yet has only incarnated on Earth a few times. There is a particular soul group that essentially the only time they come to Earth is when Earth is in some sort of crisis. They may only incarnate once every few hundred years. In the grand scheme of things, it may look like that soul is a younger soul, simply because most of the life of that soul has been lived on the other side as opposed to on Earth. So maybe they have only had 70 or 80 lifetimes, but their soul has existed for millions of years. On the contrary, my soul has incarnated over and over again. I usually have very little time in between my lifetimes. And that is simply a decision that my soul has made. I really love to learn. And this is something that my soul is passionate about. Instead of spending a lot of time on the other side reminiscing about what happened in previous lives, I very much just sort of assess what happened and then figure out what I need to do in the next lifetime, and I get right to it. Not all souls are the same way. This will give you an entirely different perspective on the notion of old souls and new souls. When we think about old souls, We think about the people who have been here so many times. And when we look at newer souls, it's not that they are not far along on their journey. It's not that they just started as souls. It has nothing to do with that. It simply has to do with the amount of times that soul has incarnated on Earth. With old souls, you can see the wisdom and the density of this planet in their eyes. And with new souls, you see almost a bit of an innocence or a hopefulness that exists, and that is simply because they haven't spent as much time here. And that is one thing that I would love to drive home if you take anything from this particular episode, is that it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Nobody is better than anyone else. It is simply about the lessons and the learning and where you happen to be in that process. Everyone has a different goal. Everyone has a different purpose. So you cannot compare yourself to anyone else. Okay, you have your soul contract. And what if now you find out what your soul contract is for this lifetime and what your soul purpose is? And let's say you decide you don't like it. Personally, you just say, you know what? I don't think I want to do that. Can you change it? The answer is complicated. Yes, you can. However, it needs to be agreed upon by your higher self, by your angels and guides, and by the universe. The reason for that is because our three-dimensional brains, our egos, the density that we live in here on Earth, are not the best places to make decisions. And I'm sure you can imagine that when you are in meditation and after you come out of meditation, your decision-making process is much, much better. It is very similar to that. If you are making a decision with your head and not your heart and your higher self, then chances are you're not going to be able to change that soul contract because that is not in your highest good. If there is a legitimate reason for you changing a soul contract, then the universe will let you know that this is something that is able to be done. That being said, in all of the clients that I have seen, I have never seen this happen. So it is a possibility. They've told me the message that it is a possibility. It's just incredibly, incredibly rare. Another topic that is quite interesting is the idea of curses. This is something that I do clear on a pretty regular basis from people's Akashic Records. Now, you might be thinking about curses in the very dramatic Hollywood witches casting a curse kind of way, and that's not quite what they are. They can be, but more times than not, a curse is simply something that is said out of extreme anger. If you think about what manifestation is, when you manifest something, not only do you have to speak the words, you have to feel it viscerally within your body. You have to know that feeling. If you're trying to manifest money, you just imagine that beautiful number in your bank account. You think about how happy you will be to have all of your bills paid, and then you let it go to the universe. It is very similar when you talk about lower emotions. When you talk about things like anger or jealousy or guilt or shame. When you speak to somebody coming from these lower energies and you really, really mean it, that can actually be a curse. I have cleared curses people have placed on others. I have also cleared curses that have been placed on the client that I'm speaking with. Essentially, if you want to think of it this way, if you have ever said to somebody, I wish you never blah, 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 like in that sort of tone, that pretty much is a curse. That is why words are very important. Energy behind the words is very, very important. So be careful what you say to somebody in anger because you may be placing a curse on them. Now, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean that, they're going to turn into a toad? No, absolutely not. Basically, all this means is that you are placing a really lower energy into this person's energy field. Let's say if you said something about them not being successful, they might actually take on that belief system, and energetically it will settle within their body, and they will actually not be successful because they believe it. In order to make sure that things like curses don't take hold, you need to make sure that you are constantly looking at your belief systems, where they come from, are they yours? And this is something we are also going to cover in a future episode. Now, there are actual curses that I have seen on family lines, things like that. And that comes from older times where there were actual witches that were casting curses and things like that. That doesn't really happen so much anymore. But there are some residual that do happen, especially within family lines. So that is something that is also able to be cleared in the Akashic Records. The next item to be cleared are vows. If you think about all the vows we make throughout our lifetime, there are a lot of them. And again, not all of them really stick around. There has to be some really strong, visceral energy behind that vow in order for it to stick around. For example, if you happen to be a monk or a nun or a priest in a previous lifetime, this could have been, let's say, 8 or 10 lifetimes ago. You may have taken a vow of poverty, of celibacy, any number of vows that you took very seriously in that lifetime. That could be affecting your ability to make money, your ability to have sexual connections with somebody. There could be a lot of things that are affecting your current lifetime based on these vows that you took. Once we're able to clear those vows, it actually opens up your energy to be able to receive what is actually meant for you. It's a block to what you are meant to achieve in this lifetime. So we are simply removing that block and allowing your soul to move forward on the path that it's meant to. Another type of vow would be a marriage vow. If you have been married in this lifetime and you would like to get married again, it is often a really great idea to clear the marriage vows from your previous marriage, because not only do those vows actually hold true even after you have divorced, you do have to energetically sever those vows in order to be able to move forward in a beautifully clean energy. Sometimes you have vows from previous lifetimes, marriages from previous lifetimes that were maybe really, really beautiful and really meaningful to you. And when you both passed on in that lifetime, there are a lot of deathbed vows, such as, I will never leave you, I will be there for you forever, and things like that, that end up carrying over into other lifetimes. And maybe that is not for your soul's highest good to continue with that vow with that person. Because if that person, let's say, is not even incarnated in this lifetime, you're yearning for something that is actually not even here. This simply clears your energy to be able to fully step forward and be the person you are meant to be. Those are the 3 big things we do a lot of clearing with within the Akashic Records: soul contracts, vows, and curses. As I had mentioned earlier in this episode, we also tackle patterns, we tackle cycles and belief systems. Sometimes people are really stuck in a particular lifetime because maybe it was super traumatic. We can look at all of these things. Sometimes people are absolutely fascinated in where they were, what they were doing, what job they had in past lives, what country they lived in, what year it was, what was happening. And all of those are really fascinating pieces of information. However, my guides don't always give me that information because it simply isn't important. If it is important, they will tell me, But often I will just get the information about the situation that we're looking at in the past life. If you are looking to get an exact year and what happened and who was there and every last little detail, you might be slightly disappointed because that sort of information isn't really pertinent to what you need to learn. It's interesting, and I often call that past life tourism, where you are just wanting to know, oh, what country was I in? Was I a man or a woman? Or what did I live through? Did I live through this war or that war? Yes, of course, I can answer those questions for you, and my guides will tell me if you ask. But you have to think about what benefit that is going to give you in this current lifetime. Another thing not to get caught up on is time. We experience time here on Earth in a very different way than time actually exists. Even just the term past lives is slightly misleading simply because there is no past and there is no future simply because time exists at all times in the present moment. And I know that's a little bit mind explodey, but essentially everything is happening simultaneously. If this is something you would like to look further into, I would highly recommend looking up string theory and quantum mechanics, quantum theory, anything like that, and that will send you down a really lovely rabbit hole and you can read all about it. A really good example of this that is pretty well done is in the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. They really kind of describe that idea that time is existing all at once. So if you haven't seen that movie, go and watch it. Here is your takeaway. Think of the Akashic Records as your guidebook to life. It is what is going to help you achieve what you are meant to achieve. They are going to help you in this lifetime create all of the beauty and all of the abundance that you have always wanted. When you are going against what your soul path is meant to do, you know it because everything starts going wrong in your life, correct? Well, there is one little caveat to that statement. Oftentimes, when you are going through a spiritual awakening or your ascension, things will fall apart simply because you're clearing that old energy to make way for the new energy. And again, that will be another episode coming up later on this season. Join us next week, where I'm going to be interviewing Ray, who has been a longtime client of mine. He is going to give you a firsthand account of his experience receiving Akashic Record sessions. I want to thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to walking this journey with you and pointing the way on your spiritual journey. If you are interested in learning more about me and the sessions that I do, feel free to go to my website at infinitesoullove.com. On all social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Infinite Soul Love 1111. Hey, and if you feel called, I would love it if you could rate The Heart of You on whatever streaming service you're using, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please take a moment, give it a review. It really does help the channel. Thanks so much.